When Andrew Johnson took the land back from 40,000 black families in 1865, when the 40 acres promise was reversed, he did not just break a promise. He made a decision that shaped every land story this channel has covered all summer. The sharecrop system, the debt peonage, the heir property loss, the Delta hunting clubs on plantation land. All of it traces directly back to one moment in 1865 when the government chose the Confederate planters over the people who had built that land with their labor. When the 40 acres promise was reversed, the freed people of the South had nowhere to go. They had no land, they had no capital. They had skills, the most productive agricultural skills in the country, built over generations of forced labor. But they had no ownership stake in the land those skills had made valuable. The planters had the land. They needed labor to work it. The freed people needed food and shelter. The sharecrop system grew directly from that collision, not as an arrangement that served both sides equally, but as one that served the planters' interest in maintaining the labor force on the same land under the same basic conditions as before, just under a different legal name. The Freedmen's Bureau tried to supervise labor contracts between freed people and their former enslavers. The Bureau's records, still in the National Archives, still searchable by county and state, document what those contracts actually looked like. They document the disputes, the violence, the wages withheld, the crops that went to the planter when the accounting was done at the end of every season. The same commissary system, the same debt that never cleared. The Bureau's Mississippi headquarters in Vicksburg generated records of those disputes across dozens of counties, from the Delta bottomland to the hill country. Families who had believed they were farming free now found themselves in arrangements they could not leave without consequences. The 40 acres that would have been their anchor, their own ground to work and pass on, were gone. The Southern Homestead Act of 1866 was Congress's attempt to give freed people land somewhere, even if not the coastal plantation territory Johnson had returned to the Confederates. Nearly 46 million acres in Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Louisiana, and Mississippi were designated for low-cost homestead claims. But the documentation is consistent. Most of that land was swampy, eroded, or pine-barrens territory that could not produce a viable crop without capital that freed families did not have. Here is what the courthouse records show about what happened in the decades that followed. The same land that freed families were removed from in 1865, the coastal plantation territory, the Delta bottomland, the Black Belt cotton country, appears in courthouse deed records across the South in a chain of ownership that runs from antebellum planter families through Reconstruction-era transfers, through the sharecrop era, through the timber company acquisitions, through the Depression-era foreclosures, and in many cases to the hunting clubs and institutional investors that hold that land today. The families who were on Edisto Island in 1865, who had crops in the ground and structures built on their 40 acres, had their names removed from possession of that land within months of Johnson's order. The planters' names went back on the records, and the chain of title that runs through those county courthouse deed books has generally continued in the same direction ever since. The National Park Service documented that only 1/6 of the land the Freedmen's Bureau provided to black families would remain in black family hands. 1/6. The other 5/6 went back to the planters, back into the ownership chain that eventually produced the private plantation system, the Delta hunting clubs, the timber company holdings, and the institutional investors who are buying Mississippi farmland today at $4,000 to $7,500 an acre. The 40 acres that Garrison Frazier told General Sherman were the only way black Americans could truly be free The 40 acres that 40,000 families believed they had received became instead the foundation for a system where black families worked land for generations without owning it. The sharecrop system, the debt peonage that kept workers on the land without the economic independence that owning the land would have provided. The heir property vulnerability that fractured the land. Black families did eventually acquire across generations without wills. The hunting club exclusion, the timber company accumulation, the institutional investor purchases. Every story this channel has told this summer traces back to January 1865 when the promise was made and the summer of 1865 when it was broken. The Freedmen's Bureau records are in the National Archives. The county courthouse deed records document the chain of ownership from 1865 to today. The families whose names were on those 40-acre possessory titles in the summer of 1865 are in those records. The planters who got the land back are in those records. And the chain from those names to the names on the deed books today is documented and traceable. If this is something every Southerner should know, hit like so more people see it. Follow Southern land stories so you never miss one. The 40 acres were promised in January. They were farmed in the spring. They were taken back in the summer. And the South that grew from that reversal, the sharecrop South, the hunting club South, the private plantation South, the institutional investor South, is the South this channel documents every week. The promise was broken in 1865. We are still living with the consequences.